already experiencing that in the town of North Reading. The North Reading Transcript has done a tremendous service in being an active reporter of the facts and circumstances of what are occurring. But if you've read the transcript in the last 2 or 3 weeks, you've probably noticed that there's a significant rise in the level of calls. And traditionally, the calls that we see most often during these difficult times are a rise in domestic violence. We've already seen a 11% increase in domestic violence calls within this community. And coincidentally, we see a rise in other property crimes such as larcenies, motor vehicle breaks, home breaks, and robberies. We haven't felt the robberies yet, but you don't have to look very far to the communities around us. Reading has experienced a couple of bank robberies. Wilmington has experienced a couple of bank robberies recently. Our department went down and assisted Reading last Tuesday evening when they had 14 break-ins in one night. We've come close to that. We've had 7 or 8 break-ins in one evening recently. And you folks may have not experienced that yourselves individually, but it's coming. It's part of the difficult economic times. People have to feed themselves. They have to have some level of income. And so that happens. Coincidentally with that, we still are faced with a major drug epidemic that's facing not only this region, but specifically impacting our community. Our detectives, working with the DEA, have identified at least 25 drug dealers living and operating in our community. You can find evidence of drug use like walking around any of our parks or street corners. We've had calls of residents turning in hypodermic needles found at bus stops. Not saying that it's our children using it, but somebody at those bus stops is dropping hypodermic needles. So there are signs and symptoms of that problem all over the community. And what goes along with that is an increase in petty theft and house breaks and so on and so forth. Recently, we've experienced 2 very significant domestic violence cases where some young woman had some significant injuries where they were beaten up pretty severely. And that goes with economic stress also. So we're beginning to feel that level of problem. Right now, we have 30 full-time police officers working with the police department, 1 part-time administrative assistant that handles our payroll, billing, and so forth. And we have 5 part-time reserve officers, about 8 crossing guards, and 2 animal control officers. Our staff is broken into 3 detectives. Years ago we had 2, and we were able to stem the tide with 2. But about a half a dozen years ago, with the rise of the drug problem, we found it necessary to increase that staffing level. And these individuals can barely keep up with the regular crime that we're confronted with on a daily basis, as well as the added stress that's put on that division with the rising crime problem. We have 2 lieutenants, and we have 6 sergeants, and our patrol force is divided into 6 working shifts. And that is because we are a 24-hour-a-day, 7-day-a-week operation. There are 3 patrolmen per shift patrolling the community most of the time. Right now, we're on an austerity program because of budgetary issues. We've actually rolled back our staffing level. We're not filling many of our overnight shifts from 1 o'clock in the morning until 7 o'clock in the morning. We're running typically 1 officer down, which presents a whole other series of problems. But we have 6 sergeants that go to shifts. And you may say, well, it seems like it's a little top-heavy. But you have to do an analysis of what a police department is. It's the most high-risk operation in any municipality, any city across the United States. Why is it high risk? Well, it's the nature of the job, the type of calls that we're responding to, and the fact that police officers are the only armed force in the United States that can legally carry weapons on a day-to-day basis and use those weapons to take somebody's life, or we can take people into custody, depriving them of their rights and their liberties and their freedoms, and incarcerate them. And that takes, to manage that risk, it takes a lot of supervision, and it takes a certain level of training. And if we fail to meet that mission, then there is that possibility that exposes this community to a high risk. And you may say to yourself, well, any North Reading officer been involved in this? Well, in fact, yes, we have. We've been involved in 2 officer shootings in the last 5 years. You don't see that in the headlines. I think the transcript covered it adequately years ago, but in fact, during 2 of our operations, we had to use firearms. 18 months ago, our department was commended highly by the state police and the district attorney's office for their capability and ability of handling that murder hostage situation that took place on Country Club Road. That goes to the fact that we have a skilled department. They're adequately supervised. They have sufficient training, and they're well equipped. But if you take any one of those factors out of that formula, and you begin to diminish our capacity to provide that level of service. Also, we provide that same level of service to our schools. We have one of the recognized and highly recognized departments in the state for their ability to work with the schools, identify problems with the schools, and have worked with school staff on their emergency plan and how we would respond with the fire department to a crisis in our schools. Again, you take part of that formula away, it diminishes our ability to be able to provide that level of security and service to our schools. Currently, we're working with town hall staff. We have a team put together, police officers and town hall employees working on security issues for town hall. You may have heard about the incident that occurred in Missouri about a month ago, where a deranged individual walked in and he shot up a meeting and killed a number of individuals. Well, that's the second or third incident that's happened around our country in the last 3 or 4 years, and it's raised a level of concern with our town hall and its employees. So we put together a team. What they're looking at is short-term and long-term goals, providing physical security and training for employees. But they're not only looking at, because of the level of experience that our officers have, they're looking at not only town hall security, but town meeting security, polling place security, and any other facility within the community, such as our relevant housing. As you do an analysis of North Reading is a unique community. It's a beautiful community. I've been employed in this community for nearly 40 years. I have spent a large part of my life living here, having graduated from North Reading High School many years ago. But it is a unique community in the sense that we are an epicenter. Sociologists identify epicenters as being in a major crossroad or near the vicinity of large cities. And if you look at the location of North Reading, we are nestled in between I-95, Route 93, pretty close to 495, Route 125, Route 62, and certainly Route 28. All those have been identified by criminologists and sociologists as thoroughfares for crime. And we're right smack dab in the middle. We're 8 miles from Lawrence, we're 12 miles from Boston, we're 8 miles from Lynn. Lowell is only about 10 miles away. So we experience a lot of this traffic back and forth through our community. It also provides accessibility to some residents who are looking to purchase drugs, purchase firearms, and so on. So because of that, it is a unique community. We also have 22 liquor pouring, liquor serving establishments in our community. That has a significant impact on law enforcement services, as you well can imagine. We have 11 high-density residential locations in our community. All those present specific problems. And if you go through an analysis of the town, North Reading is unique. And if we end up experiencing the necessity to cut to police officers, there will be a diminished level of service. find some means of funding the needs of the school and other municipal agencies, and specifically funding for my department of the police department. Thank you for your time.
Recognition second. I think what's important here is the town administrator said this list is not a list that he was supporting. It's a list that the chair has put up to permit to get some dialogue going associated with our department heads, and for the board to look at and to weigh the issues that we face associated with trying to come up with some funds for the school department. And I apologize to the town department heads for the short notice, but I commend you for the fantastic job that you've done in defending each of your departments. Young lady there that had something to say. Please, come here.
Say my name.
Yes, name and address.
Commissioner from Rockland Street. Two questions related to the police possible elimination of two positions. If we eliminate these two positions, you showed a slide, I think it was third and fourth, related to overtime. And I was wondering if we cut two positions, what impact will that have on overtime, if any?
I'll let the chief answer.
I have another question.
Well, at this time of night, I can only handle one question. There are any number of staffing formulas that are used to staff any business or municipal agency, or in particular police departments. The most accurate formula is based upon workload, which also takes into consideration time off benefits that employees have. Right now, through collective bargaining agreements, the police department, and probably is mirrored through many of the departments, has a very generous fringe benefit of time off. And when you factor that into the number of calls we have, the significant calls, and the man hours it takes to handle those particular calls, using that formula, I don't want to sound like, that formula shows that we should have 54.2 police officers, though we are very comfortable staying where we're at, believe me. But that is indicative of the level of manpower it takes to staff an agency and keep a safe level of, well, not only an employee, but to make sure that you have sufficient manpower to handle those kinds of heads-up calls that we have in the community, like any community for that matter, not just your domestic violence calls, your housebreak calls, and so on and so forth. We encounter about 1,000 disturbance calls throughout the year, and those are labor intensive. We experience about 500 motor vehicles accidents per year. They're labor intensive. Let me just illustrate that by using domestic violence. Domestic violence is controlled by state law and state policy with a mandate that 2 police officers at a minimum respond to a domestic violence call. And if it's a serious call, they have to send a supervisor there. And by law, we can't leave the premises until the victim of that domestic violence says it's okay for us to leave. So that could entail 4 or 5 man-hours for a call like that. Motor vehicle accident is an average of about 3 man-hours per call. Our overtime budget approved last year was $403,000. And with that amount of money, that money funds training, it funds officers going to court on their off time, it funds emergency callbacks when we're short staffed and a crisis occurs, and it also funds about 60% of our replacement needs